Hey, what's up, guys? And I am here to give you a video. As I said this week on Sunday, I said this was going to be a new week, and then we're going to get special schedules of when my videos were going to be made. Unfortunately, the SpongeBob one didn't work out. However, every Monday I would make a SpongeBob review. Um, to be honest with you, my buddy Adam, who's on the CM Brothers channel, we made a comeback, so you can check that channel out. Ended up coming over, we made some videos on that channel, and the SpongeBob video didn't get made. So next week, I will review 2 SpongeBob episodes to make up from last week. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about this show that I'm going to be reviewing. As you know, every Tuesday I said that I would review The Walking Dead, and no better place to start than Season 1, Episode 1. Well, it's not a bad start. So, I'm gonna, every Tuesday you're gonna get each episode review until I get to the end, I guess. So let's just get it started. Usually when I watch a new show, I usually go through who the cast are, but to be honest with you, I was going through the cast, and mainly the people that I saw on in this movie, I didn't really read anything about it, but they weren't in this episode, so I'm just not really going to go through the cast. You can go on another YouTuber who makes videos like this, and they will tell you the cast. I can tell you what the name of the episode is and when it came out. I can tell you that much. Alright, so this episode is called Days Gone By. And boy did they. And this episode came out on October 31st, 2010. So this came out on Halloween in 2010. What a coincidence, hey? And it starts out with this guy. He's like he's a sheriff, and he's a police officer. And he was driving, and I guess his police car ran out of gas. And when he walks over, he sees a bunch of crap tipped over, like a bunch of cars, and they're all just destroyed. And then there's like a truck tipped over, and as he got further along, it would get more damage. But then as he got really far, some of the cars stayed 100%. And I guess he was looking for gas, like I said, because he had a gas tank with him. And I guess the place doesn't have gas. So then he also sees like a bunch of crap laying around, like a toy teddy bear, stuff like that. And he sees this little girl walking, and he says, "Hey, little girl, let me help you. I'm a cop." And when the little girl turns around, she's a zombie. And then he ends up shooting her in the head. And yeah, that's how it started. That's really all I have to say. It kind of starts like the theme song that would play, which really wasn't much. And then it gets to the actual episode, and I think it went back in time because this episode, I want to tell you why it went back in time in a second. Shane and Wick, that's the sheriff's name, and Shane just works with them. They're eating dinner, well, lunch. They were probably taking their lunch break, and they were talking about girls, and like what the difference between a girl and a guy is. And Shane was just going on about how the girls always leave the lights on, and that they're pro global warming, but they always leave the lights on and are hurting the environment. And then Shane talks about how he's dating somebody, or was married, he didn't really say yet. I'm assuming married, named Lori. And he has and they haven't really been seeing eye to eye. They've been kind of fighting lately, not necessarily fighting, but not on the same page. And then we find out he has a son named Shane. I think that was his name, right? Let me just double check. check. Yeah, it was Shane. Um, and talked about how they haven't been seeing eye to eye, and she said, like, I don't really think this is gonna work out or something in front of the kid. And then he talked about how he would never do that in front of the kid. He must have been in a state of mind. And before they can really finish talking about what they want to talk about, they found this. They get a call in from the radio because they have to go arrest somebody or something, and they drive down there, and I guess somebody was and the police car ended up chasing somebody, and the car that they were chasing tipped over, and then somebody gets out. We don't ever find out who this guy is. I don't think we ever will. And starts shooting at all the cops, and all the cops have guns, and the sheriff Rick ends up getting shot in the right here, in like the side. But the first guy dies, and then Rick says, nothing happened to me, I just went through my uniform, just don't tell my kids about this. And then another guy, well, they had killed another guy, but then another guy shoots Rick, and he ends up, he ends up kind of about to die, because he got shot, like, in the heart area. And then afterwards, his buddy Shane's telling him, stay with us, you're gonna get through this. And then we see Shane. It's kind of like how Rick would see this. He's not like necessarily awake. He's kind of like blowy. And I guess he says that the people at the station, everybody chipped in and bought some flowers. Everything's the same. We're trying to get through this, but before we can find out, he opens his eyes and Shane's not there. He said something about Shane and he's not there. And he sees that, and he gets off the bed, I guess, to go to find Shane, but he needs help from the nurse because he had to learn oxygen in his nose, and he was still very in bad shape. And then he thinks he's in the bathroom, but he's not there. He calls for the nurse to help, though, when he was on the ground. The nurse didn't end up helping him, and then when he leaves his principal, well, it's not the principal's office, but when he leaves his room in the hospital, because he was in the hospital, obviously, it's fucking destroyed. It's just totaled. It is destroyed. Nothing they can really do about it, so they go. He's just walking around. He sees something that says "Don't Dead" or something. Open other side, and zombies trying to break in. Well, somewhat. And then he walks out and sees a bunch of these dead bodies that have just been left lying there. And then he goes to grab a bicycle, and then he sees a zombie. So he ends up riding away from the zombie. And he goes to his house, and his wife, Lori, and his son, Shane, aren't there. So he's all upset, thinking that something happened to them. So he goes outside, he's all upset. And he sees somebody walk up the street, and he's gonna wave to them, asking them for help. But then we see somebody behind him, and Rick ends up getting hit with a shovel, and he gets his nose and mouth get bloody, and then we see a father and a son. They're both black. Dwayne is the son's name, and the father's Morgan, and Morgan says, how did you get this injury? And he's like, what? But before Rick can, when he says if he doesn't answer, he would shoot him. But before Rick can answer the question, he becomes unconscious. He gets knocked out, and so then when he wakes up, he is tied up to the bed. Morgan asks him the same question. Well, it says that he's changed his bandages, and then he asks him the same question. And he says he got shot, and he's like, "That's it." He's like, "That's all? Is that all that matters?" And he's like, "I'll ask the questions here." He asks if he got bit. Says he didn't get bit, and he says he has a fever. And he checks to see if he has a fever. He doesn't have a fever. Says he would have died by now. You're gonna find out what that means in a second. And he lets go of he takes his pocket knife and um, un- cuts the rope so he can to untie him. And he says if he tries anything funny, he will kill him with the knife. And then he comes out of the room. He said to come out when he's ready. And his son, by the way, doing this had when he woken up, had a baseball bat in hand. Dwayne. And then Rick gets out there, and he's this house. The windows are covered, and they can't uncover them because then they'll see us. They'll see the light, so the zombies will know that somebody's in there. Um, so Morgan is explaining what's going on, but Rick obviously doesn't know what's going on because I guess he's been asleep for so long. He hasn't been awake and active, so he has no clue what's going on. So they go to eat dinner, and he talks about too how this was one of his friend's house. I forget what his name was. We're probably never going to hear that name again. He said this was just abandoned, and we just took it. And then Rick ends up. They end up blessing the meal before they eat it because they had dinner, all the family. And while they were doing this, Morgan gave Rick a look like he knew Rick didn't know what was going on, so we had to explain it. Because Rick didn't understand why Morgan ended up shooting the guy that was walking towards him. He was a zombie, obviously, and talks about the only thing he really knows is since he woke up. And he explains that we don't really know exactly how it happened. Well, I don't really know exactly how this happened yet. That I guess somehow this zombie ended up taking over, and they put some of them down, but the others are just walkers, so they're just zombies. They call them walkers though. And then says if you get bit by them, you will get this fever, and you will end up dying. Kind of really all that happens. That's kind of how he explains it. I think if you get bit, and that's why they were afraid about his skull, you get a fever. I think that's how they explained it. And I guess later on they're in somebody's room. I think Dwayne's, and I guess we find out that Shane is a little younger than Dwayne, and Dwayne looks like he's about 10 or 11. And we find out that Morgan's wife ended up getting bit, and he had the opportunity to put her down, but he didn't have the hope to put her down, which is understandable. You really wouldn't want to kill your wife, because we see that his wife walks toward her. I never found out what the wife's name was. And she tries to get in, and Dwayne's scared because I guess he's afraid that his mother's gonna kill him. And it doesn't end up happening. And then eventually Rick, Dwayne, and Morgan all leave because I guess in the morning they're not as active. I mean they are, but they're more active at night. And he explained too that they were really all there because he had fired a gun, and they always go, I guess, where the gun points. And I guess they walk into a car alarm too, so I don't really get that. They like bumped into a car and a car alarm went off. One of them at midnight, one of the walkers was walking, and Rick hit it several times with the baseball bat. And then they go to the police station. Well, he actually goes to his house, says that his son and his wife his wife, his girlfriend, whatever she is, I'm assuming his wife, is fine. That because there's no picture. Well, there's no clothes. They bought enough clothes, and Morgan's like, well, they could have just stolen the clothes. Someone there could have just come in and stolen the clothes, because there was no family out pictures, no nothing. And Morgan brings up the fact that I don't really know what he said here, but and then here I think he couldn't really find an explanation, but it makes sense. And then trying to remember what else happened. I think what ended up happening is oh, they went to the police station to shower up and stuff, and I guess they haven't taken a shower in a while. And they got weapons. And I think Morgan talked about how his wife couldn't, like, there's like a safe place you can go, but his wife couldn't go there because she was injured or something. And he mentions how he couldn't put her down. So they all grab weapons though, so they can fight off the zombies. And Rick and Morgan and Dwayne are all gonna go their separate ways. And Rick gives Morgan a radio so he can keep him posted on what's going on. And then they play this montage of what's going on with Rick's side and Morgan and Dwayne's side. Rick's just walking around. I think he ran out of gas. Well, then he sees somebody, a zombie, and at first I thought this was Laurie because he's like, "I'm sorry this happened to you." So I was thinking, "Oh, it's probably Laurie," but it wasn't. He actually shoots her. And then Morgan, on his side, has a picture of his wife. He tells his son to read comic books while he's upstairs, and he's actually gonna teach his son how to fire a gun too, which is gonna be cool. Morgan just starts firing away at zombies, and then eventually what ends up happening is he ends up seeing his wife, and he wants to put his wife down, obviously, so that she can be free, but he can't. He doesn't have the heart to, obviously, so he doesn't do it. We don't really see him after this episode. I hope we still do see him. I think we will see him again, and I kind of would like to have him keep building to having him end up kill his wife, and eventually he will have no choice. Maybe like the wife will just about injure it's just about to kill Dwayne, and Morgan has no choice but to kill his wife to save Dwayne's life. I hope that's the direction they go to. Well, they went in anyways. I'm gonna say they go in though since I haven't seen it, and then Rick runs out of gas. So obviously now that you know that this is like the first thing was like in the present, this is like the flashback. So he tries to go find people for gas, can't find anybody, and he meets this couple's house, and they're both dead. I think he says, "God bless us," written in blood. So then he sees a horse, and he rides the horse, and yeah. He also, before this, he ran out of gas and called somebody on the radio, and to see if there was anyone survivors out there, and they tried to answer. There were some survivors that tried to answer, but they couldn't because they had bad radio reception. And we find out that the survivors, there was a young daughter, an old man, and an RV, and Shane ended up answering. But he couldn't get a hold of him. But I'm assuming the old guy is Shane's father, and the little girl, the young girl, is Shane's daughter. And we find out, well, there was a woman there, and she was gonna go, which I think is Shane's wife, well, which I thought was Shane's wife. And they end up. She said that she's gonna go look for people because they can't go in the city because that's a bad. She said that's a bad spot to go. What ends up happening is Shane talks her out of it because they don't want her son to lose somebody else in the family. So then they start kissing. So it's supposed to know that that's his wife, or his girlfriend, and tells her son to do something. But I couldn't really hear it, so I really feel like going back to it. And then we see Rick looking at his family. We find out that Shane is now dating Rick's wife/girlfriend, Lori. So I can't wait to see what happens when Rick confronts Shane when they see each other. Because I'm assuming they're going to see each other obviously before. I don't know if the season's over, but before the series ended, or it did end. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. And then Rick, this is now like back after he got the horse. He ends up being in the city now. Exactly where he doesn't want to go. And you're going to find out why. And he's riding the horse, and he walked by this bus that's filled with zombies. Now, when I saw this bus, I played Black Ops 2 with Adam. It reminded me of the Black Ops 2 game when you would go on the bus and shoot the zombies. Reminded me exactly of that. Well, if you went on that map, probably. And the zombies come out, and then eventually Rick is riding the horse, and then he stumbles by this one part of the city where it's just filled with zombies. So that's probably why you don't want to be in the city, because it's just filled with zombies. So he tries to get away with the horse. It fails, because now zombies can run. I don't. They never mentioned that. You know, when you're a kid, you have to believe zombies can't run. So yeah, zombies can't run, and they end up getting the horse. So the horse gets bitten on. And Shane ends up dropping. He had like a bunch of guns with him. He ends up dropping like the saddle of the gun, the backpack where you put the guns on your back, and then the zombies are getting at him. He kicks one of them in the head to stop him from biting him, because he will get turned into a zombie. And he crawls under the car. He has a pistol, so he shoots some zombies. And then he ends up going into a tank. And he sees a zombie right next to him. He grabs some of his ammo. And the zombie ends up waking up, so he shoots the zombie. And since the gun was like right near him, it hurt his ear, kind of took away his healing for a little while. So he ended up going outside the tank. And a bunch of zombies tried to get at him, and he went inside the tank. And then we hear someone on the radio say, "Hey, idiot in the tank! Hey, idiot in the tank!" or something. And that's how the episode ended. That was about it. Afterwards, you see some zombies, I think, finishing up Eat the Horse. And that was about it. And I really like this show from start to finish. Well, this episode anyways. So I really did like this. I think this is going to be a good series to review. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Really, for right now, I can't wait to see what happens more, because after I get to know the characters, what's going to happen with Morgan and Dwayne and Rick and Shane, all that stuff. So I will watch the next episode next week and give you my review next week. So all I have to say, guys, is peace out.